This is something that's not to be overlooked, right?
So when we bring someone on, we underestimate what people need to be fully acclimated to our organization. We truly sometimes think that all we have to do is get them up to speed on their job. Like, this is where you sit,
Right.
and this is what you do, and this is your boss, and these are your people that you work with.
Here's where the printer is, this kind of thing.
And there's so much more that we're missing that can really impact an employee's ability to do a great job, to not want to quit, or to get us in some hot water, speaking in like liability terms and compliance terms.
Sure.
Because we're not training them like from the get-go. Right. In your new hire orientation.
Okay, so we cover company policy typically in the new hire orientation.
Right, so we'll talk about
sexual
compliance.
harassment, right.
And you need to do that because we're assuming that everyone's been trained on that. Well, you're 30 years old. Like, listen, not every organization does a formal training on workplace harassment. And maybe your policies are a little different or stringent. Right. And you know, and this is the thing. Let's say that you don't train somebody on workplace harassment and their boss asks them out. They might think like, well, I guess that's okay, but if your policy is we don't allow dating between the ranks and that's not acceptable, if you're trained on that, you can go and be like, whoa, this is wrong. I know this because they told me this.
Right, exactly.
So you have compliance training, and then your culture. And this is a great way to get buy-in because this is our history. This is where we came from. This is how we started. You're a part of this. This is how we do what we do. And maybe if the culture is very different where they came from, and now you're explaining to them that we're really relaxed, we like to engage. What's important to us is more that you are happy and you feel heard, less than how fast are you getting it done. Or it might be, you know, listen, here we have a lot of pressures. So we have to get a lot done very fast and understand that there's gonna be times where we're putting a lot of stress on you, but that's only because we're up against the clock. But that is how we do things here.
Sure.
You want to set them up for success and give them context to what they're walking into.
I'd say even maybe before you get to the orientation hire, you should ask that question to your potential manager,
Okay.
right? I
So
mean,
who's going to
what is the culture?
Who's going to build orientation? Who's going to build it, design it, and who's going to deliver it? When I worked for Disney, you had to audition just to deliver orientation. You had to audition because it was that important, and that people that were hearing the message for the first time, it came from the right folks. And so what is going to be included, you want to get everybody on board, because it's one thing if you and I go plan orientation and then they get into the office like, this is nothing like they told us that we get here.
Right, right.
And the employees are like, yeah, no, I have no idea. They don't ask us. We have no idea.
Sure. And that's the worst, I feel like, as a new hire. That's the last thing you want to be presented with are other employees, coworkers who don't know what the orientation is.
And they're
about,
like, I don't
right?
know what they're telling you in
Right,
there. I have
sure.
no idea. And maybe they did not get an orientation. So you know what you do if you create one and you never put people through it?
What?
You put them through it.
Right.
You're gonna be like, listen, we have a new
Get your
orientation.
hands dirty, right.
Come on in. Well, I've been here for 5 years. We're doing it again. But you want the people that do the job to have input, and you ask them, what do you wish you knew on your first day of work coming in?
Sure.
What did we not tell you that would have made your job easier, and that would have made you performing better, or have shortened the gap to get you up to speed?
And is it appropriate for different sectors, maybe within the company, to have different style orientations?
So so what you have is you have your new hire orientation of the organization, and then you have your department or on-the-job training, and those will look very different because of what you're doing.
Sure.
But everyone should have this. No matter what you do, should have that same message. No matter what rank you are, part-time or full-time, and this is where people miss the boat. No one tells this little new hire that, hey, on Sundays we get really busy, just so it's always crazy, just be ready for that. Or, hey, on the first Monday of the month, it's casual Monday, and they come in their suit, you're like, why is there one in jeans? Like, oh, you
Right,
know,
right.
no, I'll tell you. So your very first 3 hours or half day should be consistent and have the same message, and if you miss that message, you need to go back to those folks and give that information.
Yeah. Okay, and then tell us real quick, I mean, what is the, if you're concerned about, walking in and not knowing anything, you don't want to have to rely on your cubicle mate to tell you,
So
right?
this is the thing. You have to be in charge and have intentional communication. So let's say that you really trust your team. Just because you have a good manager doesn't mean they're great at onboarding or orientation, because we forget what we know and how we know it. So we take for granted why we do what we do. We forget that the reason that we have to
Because
send...
you're in it.
Yes, every single day. So orientation needs to be built by professionals, folks that understand how we do what we do, and you have to break apart the steps, and then be intentional about what do I want people to take away about our culture? What do I want them to know? And you've got to work on the scope, because if you have people that are more passionate about one aspect of the organization, and to the point, honestly, Jacqueline, I recommend that new hire orientation is almost scripted.
Oh, wow, okay,
So to
sure.
the point where you have an agenda and talking points, and by noon today,
You know what you have covered, right?
and what should be covered, because everybody's got things they're excited about, and all of a sudden you've got Joe going on and on about this one department, and you're like, hey, we have 3 hours left and we have 6 hours to cover now.
Right.
So you really want to micromanage actually the orientation for consistency purposes.
Sure, stay on track. All right, thank you. To learn more about Julie, head to 7602.